Rocket with Chief, conversations to take you places. My name is Daniel Robus and I'm your host, and I'm so excited about the start of a winding passage where I'm interviewing people who have come home to Southern Africa. And Sibusiso Mhlongo is joining us. We're going to be calling him Sibusiso or Walter. And for our listeners who are outside of Africa, we'll explain that as we get into the conversation, why Walter has many personalities. Walter has worked all over the world. He's a telco and IT systems expert. He's a leadership expert, and he's a participant in growing our economy through good projects. Now, Walter, because you've worked all over the world, I want to ask you, has that influenced your view on food? And what is your favorite food at the moment?
Good morning, Sawubona Jumbo. Oh, yes, it has. In actual fact, some of the best food I have had was in Uganda.
Wow.
Yes.
And what would you recommend from Ugandan cuisine that we could try?
Well, the whole lot. Actual fact, their food is primarily boiled. That is what I really liked it. And it's very healthy. In one serving, you'll have a full suite, carbohydrates, proteins, and fresh food. Or their vegetables are amazing. So, but that's one of the main ones.
I was not expecting that. That is so cool. I need to go to Uganda. When last were you in Uganda? Before COVID, or have you been recently?
Before. No. Before COVID. Well, before COVID.
Oh, that's
2018.
We need to put Uganda on our trip, I think. Your career seems to be project focused. Talk to me about how we met. What led you there? What is Sibusiso's journey? How did you get here? Where did you go to school? Where did you grow up?
I'm a KZN boy. I was born in Durban. We grew up in Ikopo, Midlands. If you've read the book, Cry the Beloved Country,
yes,
the first paragraph is set up in my village of Ikopo.
Okay.
I went to school there, and then I went to high school in Bulwer, not far from there, on the foots of the Drakensberg. And then in the olden days, good old days, I joined the post office, the Postkantoor. And they sent me to Pietersburg for training because that was the only black technicon. Which after 1 year in Pietersburg, they shifted us all to Pretoria. Soshanguve, it was then called Technicon Northern Transvaal.
Okay.
It's now part of the TUT. I did electronics and telecommunications with them. And then from there...
what year was this? What year was this? What decade are we talking?
1981. That's when it all started.
So it was in the midst of the riots. It was in the midst of the unrest, and you still managed to study during these times. There was a lot going on in your world at this time. How did you react to the changes in the world that was taking place at that time?
I think the encouragement of the parents had a great influence. The emphasis on education came from home. Both my parents were teachers. That emphasis just stuck with me.
Okay.
Then Telkom, actual fact, or the Postkantoor, opened my journey into technology because I did everything in the post office, what they could do: underground cables, overhead cables, telephone exchanges, transmission, satellite. And then at the latter end of my career, data communications started coming up. Analog data communications. That is what ignited my journey to IT as well. So my career has been both IT and telecoms throughout in different market verticals. But it was all out at the Postkantoor. And then just to amuse you further, I worked for Greycore.
Oh my word. But I
Yes,
mean,
I
there were
did.
good careers that were started there. There was good stuff that was going on. You were getting cutting edge education. When did you first move offshore? What was your first job where you moved off or out of South Africa's safety net of the postkantoor?
Some time after having left the postkantoor, I joined IBM at Carlton Center, Johannesburg.
Wow.
And in IBM's wisdom, they sent me to the UK for training. That was the first time I've ever been on a plane. It's a very nice story. I went for training in the UK in January, which is very hot by then in South Africa. So I left as I'm dressed right now. And when I landed in the UK, I had a shock of my life. Needless to say that I never slept on that flight. It was a long flight that went around, followed the bulge of Africa on the west. It didn't go straight. So it was an extremely long flight. I was very scared because I had never been on a plane before. No one in my family had. So I really was scared. And then you land there, the temperature is like -5. And all your clothes are wrong.
That's when you walk out the door, you turn around, you walk back and say, I win. Now, this place is not for me.
The customs official asked me, are you sure you are dressed properly? And I said, yes, not knowing what was waiting for me at the package control. And I went there for training. I had gone to the UK for training with IBM on mainframes. I grew up in mainframes era. It was quite
using them today. There's still mainframes out there.
But they are the best technology.
Really, eh?
Oh, yes, they are. Cloud comes from there. Virtualization has been done in that platform for more than 50 years.
Wow.
I'm not marketing for them. Let's stop.
So you got a solid foundation, and then you got a taste for life outside of South Africa. This was during the apartheid era.
Yes, this is about 1989, the very first time I put myself on the plane to get a passport. That was 1989.
That was a massive culture shock for you.
Yes, it was, because from the UK, then I got sent to the laboratory of IBM in France, in Nice. That was even more of a cultural shock.
Wow. And did this bring this love for travel that you've got now?
I would say travel followed me.
Okay.
Because with IBM, then I used to be sent quite around in a number of countries doing support. And a little bit of training on certain components, like TCP/IP in those days. I used to do a bit of training there on as well. But that helped me to travel around. Okay. And that was how I met my other big employer, Coca-Cola. I was in Cote d'Ivoire doing work for IBM. Coca-Cola was one of our biggest customers. And they poached me from there, and the travel bug had hit me even more.
Okay. And were you married at this stage? Did you have a family with you?
Yes, by the time I joined Coke, I now was married, and she didn't like traveling. So
oh, really?
I was traveling alone, yes.
Wow. Now you took a decision to move actually out of South Africa, and you moved off continent, and where did you go to, and how was that? How culturally different was all of this from what you were used to?
Now, I've got to take you back on a mixture. During the post office days, I used to go and support the satellite station in Zimbabwe. So I had this taste of going outside the country in Gweru in Zimbabwe. That was where their satellite gateway used to be those days. So whenever there were issues and that were impacting our customers, this side for circuits that way, and taking long to resolve, I used to be sent there. So I had that taste of traveling. Mostly I used to do it by road. I just didn't dig an aeroplane then. With IBM, I then started supporting customers. When I went for training and for software testing in France, I used to travel a lot throughout Europe doing third line support. And then when I came back, when I was back in South Africa, I would travel a lot around the country doing installations and third line support for certain systems throughout the country. So that traveling then led me to Cote d'Ivoire to go and fix an environment for Coca-Cola. Yeah. And that's when I crossed the floor. And I traveled even more with Coca-Cola.
Oh my word.
Yes, I traveled the whole of Sub-Sahara, even Angola, just before Dr. Savimbi passed on. I was there setting up the Coca-Cola. And then I went with Coke to places like Cyprus, Lebanon. We set up the Middle East office in Bahrain. And in those days, Dubai was a village. And I had that privilege. Even Abu Dhabi was a village. I had that privilege to experience all that with Coke. So I traveled extensively the whole of the Middle East, and then obviously continuing supporting the Sub-Saharan Africa.
But Sibusiso, now this is at the end of apartheid. It's coming into this new age. You're a young, non-white manager in this predominantly white environment. It must have been hell exciting. It must have been so superb doing all this work around. What stories did you bring home? I mean, could they believe that you were doing this as the first person in your family to travel?
Maybe let us start when I left KZN for the then Transvaal, because I was the first person to leave in my family, to leave KZN for the Transvaal, outside KZN. And then I joined the post office, and I couldn't speak Afrikaans. So
that must have been tough.
I got called a swart Angelseman, a black Englishman. But it was those journeys, actual fact, during those adversities of apartheid, I was privileged, or I would say maybe God helped me. I had very good sponsors. One, in the work environment, there were people who took me under their fold. Can I mention names?
Yeah, of course.
Some of them, I don't know where they were. When I moved from KZN to Pretoria North, I found a Mr. Van Sale who was from Amanzimtoti, and he took me under his wings, as it were. Yeah. And he got me out of telephone installation and PABX installations and moved me to data, which was something I had never heard of. He looked at my qualifications and he said, no, you don't belong here, move to data. And then in that data section, this was now a totally new world, scary as hell. Yeah. I got fortunate. There were three people I would like to mention. One was called Ron Smith with a T. And then there was Henry Lauren, who was my immediate boss. And there was a colleague called David Blackbeard. They really took me under their arms and coached me and helped me up on my journey. Because remember, I had no mentor, no someone to look to in the family or in the circles. This was me on this journey alone. Wow. So those people helped me. And then on the spiritual side, there was a guy called Jos Holzhausen. He later then moved to Namibia. Jos helped me to heal in the wounds of apartheid.
Wow, that is amazing. And if looking back now, what do you wish younger you had known that you know now? What would have made that easier?
A key thing for me, I wish I had had a mentor and a coach. That I didn't have. I stayed too long as a techie because that was my world. My world was to be the best engineer there is. And I think I did that. But I never knew that you could progress beyond other things. That's number one. I didn't have a mentor to help me map up my journey. Number two, I wish I had balanced education as well, further education with my experience. But the bug of traveling and being able to fix complex issues. That was me. I was on cloud nine, yet I wish I had a balance. If I had a coach, I think I would have achieved more. However, having said all that, I don't decline my journey.
Awesome. Awesome. So
Yes.
now we fast-tracked, you moved overseas and you spent a chunk of your life living off continent and working in different areas. That must have been quite an interesting experience as well, leaving Africa behind and waving goodbye to Southern Africa.
I wouldn't say living the continent per se.
Yeah.
There were journeys within the continent.
Côte d'Ivoire.
In Europe, I was going primarily on assignments, like 3-6 months, then come back. But when I traveled out of South Africa on sort of like a quasi-permanent thing, was to Kenya. And that's where as well my IT journey grew, accelerated. The experience of working for Safaricom at their infancy stages was just an awesome journey. And that led me as well to management for the first time, to senior management.
And what did you learn about Kenya that you'd like to bring back to South Africa?
Education.
Yeah.
They value education.
Really, eh?
Oh, yeah. I think per capita in Africa, they are the highest educated nation.
Wow.
To me, that foundation is critical. Hence, even if you see here in Cape Town at Amazon, they've got a lot of Kenyans that they have sourced to come here. Education. I
love that. And then you took a decision to come back to South Africa, which is what I'd like to just chat about. You could work anywhere in the world. You have the skill set, you have the experience, you now have the gravitas as a manager, yet you chose to come back to South Africa. Why? And okay, let me ask why, and then I'll ask the next question.
Maybe before coming back, we need to continue traveling.
Yeah.
I then went to Asia.
I even forgot about
Afghanistan.
You were the tallest person in the country. Eh?
I went to a most exotic place. I went to Kabul in Afghanistan to work for a telco. I went back to a telco.
You went to Kabul. What year was that?
Yes, I lived there for 5 years, 2013.
Oh, my word.
So that brought another dimension into my career. Not just now from a career perspective. Yes, in Kabul, I grew up. I ended up being a CTIO looking after all the technologies for the company, both the GSM network and the corporate business systems. But it brought home a lot of things that we took for granted, which to other people are a great luxury. Let's go back to education again. Half of my staff had not finished matric. So because of the dynamics in the country, the women, the few women, there were very few. I think in my department, there were only 3. So they would go to school in the morning, at 6 in the morning till 10. Then they come to work. Then the guys would go from 5 or 6 till 10 p.m. to school. The value that they put on education and that desire to learn was amazing. Then during lunchtime, I would do lunch and learns, especially English, doing a bit of English. That's why I'm called a Black Englishman. So I used to teach them English and then do a lot of mentoring, a lot.
Really?
Help, yes, because there were 2 things. They were not exposed to a lot of the leadership side, and it's a polarized environment. I mean, the history, if you don't know, that's a discussion for another day. So when you're having women there in the workplace, this is not a normal thing. So you needed to do training. You couldn't just say, I will pick IV to go to school. No. The lady had to be to be accompanied by a parent. So if you wanted to train a lady, your costs were double, ticket and hotel accommodation. And I am glad to share this with you. My former PA from Afghanistan is studying masters in Paris, in France right now. And some of the staff that went through my hands are in Canada, all over Europe, doing quite well in IT and telecom. So I'm proud of that. That as well gave me that review. The second one is subsistence. It was a poor country ravaged by war for more than 20, 30 years. There were a lot of fundamental things that the company was doing. Rural clinics, water, boreholes, just those basic things. And then obviously schooling. Those things touched me more than the technology. Yes, I grew as a person on the technology side and leadership, but that humanitarian component of the company I worked for touched me a lot. The last component obviously was Myanmar. I then went to Yangon. I did not start the junta, so don't have ideas. They started after I had left.
Sure.
I hadn't been to Southeast Asia there. That was a cultural shock for me, but there were other key learnings there as well.
Yeah.
I had never been exposed to Buddhism. I learned a lot out of that experience of working with the colleagues in Yangon. That shapes you. Then my daughter called me one evening. She was working in the UK. And she says to me, when are you going to go back home?
So you were pretty happy in Southeast Asia. She was in the UK, not enjoying life. And she phoned you and said, Dad,
let's go home.
It's time.
Let's go home. It was a joke. It started off as a joke. Yeah. Because I didn't stay very much long there. And then I applied. I found the job in South Africa. I came back I started on the 1st of May, 2019. I left Yangon on the 30th of May. So when I arrived, I was jet lagged as crazy at the new office. And within a month, my daughter resigned in the UK and came back home and joined me.
And why did you come home? Because she told you it's time to go home?
I had been trying to come back home for years, but I just couldn't get a job. It was very weird. I would always get this rejection. You're overqualified. You're too qualified. Then I asked myself, am I a professor or do I have quadruple PhDs, which I didn't have, but I was always blocked. You are too qualified. That was always the case. You're too qualified. Now I'm still trying to find the definition of that till today. I haven't, but I'm still trying to find it. So when I got the opportunity to come back, I jumped for it. That was in 2019.
Just before lockdown.
Yeah, and it prepared me. Those 6 months before lockdown, they prepared me for lockdown. Because I had to reorientate myself back into the country. It was a different country than the one I had left.
And good or bad or just different? How would you characterize it?
Different, but there were certain things which I detested. There was a lot of what is the right word? Entitlement that I found. And there was the polarization. The white folks were saying, well, we are being discriminated, left out of the working environment for Blacks. And the Blacks were saying the transformation is not moving fast enough. In the institution I worked in, most of the senior people were white. So it was this thing. Then the other component which I battled a lot with was customer services throughout. Be it you walk into a supermarket, you go to a bank or whatever, it just was not there. There was no passion for customer service. That's what I battled with. I really battled with it.
Wow. You said earlier, education. You said Kenya, education. You talk about your own journey, mentoring and education. I think if I had to summarize, your biggest challenge you think we are facing is education in South Africa. If we accept that the education is going to carry on, what do you think we can do as business leaders to assist people coming into the workplace on the education front? What is your practical 1, 2, 3 guide that you would love to see instituted?
There are 2 streams. My view in education are 2 streams. That's academia and trade orientated. I do believe, this is me, I still do believe we've got to go back to the technical colleges and technicons, prepare people for artisans and to workmanship, then follow the academia, place research and all that. You've got to balance these 2. The quality of the people, of the artisans, this is a personal view, is not as what it used to be. By the time I finished training at the post office, I could work. I didn't become an intern. I was ready for working.
Okay.
We need that. We need to go back to those basics. Not everybody is going to be academically orientated or fit for the research. We do need artisans as well, but informed artisans, trained properly.
Okay.
We need to fix this. That's how Singapore grew up to what it is.
Okay.
So to me, that is the component that I would like us to do. The other one is I'm sure you've seen this yourself on the advertisement for interns or for junior. An advert will come up and say, we need a junior programmer. 4 years experience. Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Is it me not comprehending English?
Yes.
Or what is this nonsense?
Yeah.
And then this tag as well, you're overqualified, not just because it affected me, it does affect other people. What is that? What is that? That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
So let us do that. I think we should balance again those technical training. There were technical colleges and commercial colleges, and then the technical routes, and then the academia. We need researchers. So we need a balance of both.
What do you think so we in the IT industry, what should we start or stop doing as leaders around here to assist to assist moving market forward in South Africa?
I think innovation needs to thrive a bit more, number 1. Number 2, I think we need to instill a culture of pride in what you do.
I love that.
When I wake up to go to the office, that says a lot. So once you are there, why are you slack? You should really be cherishing that, have that zeal. We need leaders that are going to impart that zeal to people to join the work environment and make the work environment, a place of fun. Okay. We have got to deliver where our output has got to grow higher. I think it is a bit on the low end. That is a personal view. We need to have more dedicated workforce that are committed, self-starters, people who take pride in what they do, but that comes as well from leadership and from people that they can look up to and say, wow, if I could be Joe So. I think people, the role models are getting thinner and thinner. And that is what helped me to grow, because I had those role models. Mine were different. Okay, it was a different era. My target was quite simple. If a white guy could do it, I'd do it better. That was my target. And
I love
it
that.
Helped me. It was a very good competition with myself to say that was the benchmark. Even two reasons. White folks had everything going on for themselves, and salaries were better for them, and they came from better schools. So they were better than us academically. But there was nothing stopping me to say that is going to be my benchmark, and I'm going to beat that. And it was a good competition with myself, and that helped me. So we need good mentors and coaches to help. The last thing as well for me is one, I do believe the private sector, especially in the ICT, has got to invest. It's got to invest more, not on academia only. There are people who are not orientated to get a BSc, but who can do very good networking or programming for that matter. Provide an environment for that to nurture and to grow.
Sibusiso, what's the status quo you reject and why?
That word doesn't exist in my vocabulary. I'll explain. I'm not dreaming by saying so. I think South Africa came from a very sad era. The Bantu education killed a lot of people of my age, and as well, it's still filtering there on. We were educated to take instructions. We are not educated to think and to be innovative. Now, that takes a long time to eradicate. We need, I don't say we will ever be a non-polarized society because I don't think that exists. However, that is the aspiration to say, how do we make people think beyond where they are and have those goals to attain, be it in entrepreneurship side or even in the employ. The corporate environment type employment is still going to be there. That's not going to go anywhere soon. But in that, how do we groom new leaders for tomorrow who have got the zeal and the grit for what they do? I think that's what we need to instill.
Sibusiso, if you were going to write a book, what would it be about?
Swart from Ikopo. I've been asked this question a number of times.
Oh my word. Okay, I bet that's
yes, I have.
I need to ask you a different question then. What would you write a book about? Would it be a romance novel of a young executive who travels the continent and has a girlfriend in every port?
Probably it would be my experiences on the journey. Okay. Obviously, must start at Ikopo. I've got very fond memories of my village. Starting there throughout leaving KZN to the then transfer, hearing Sutu and Setswana for the first time, and not hearing a word in your own country. Then through the journeys that life has presented to me, I have got fond memories of Europe. I enjoyed the USA. I didn't stay much there. I would go there, short trips, maybe 1 week, 2 weeks for work, both Coke and IBM, and attending conferences before the lockdown stages. I wouldn't say I know that part well as compared to Europe, where I lived, and then obviously Asia and the rest of the continent. And it would be as well to write about the strengths, the potentials in the continent. There's just so much.
Is that what's giving you hope right now? Is that why you stay and you're always positive about it? Is that there is this untapped potential?
I think there's a huge untapped potential. There is a lot that this continent can achieve for itself. The era that the continent came from did not produce leaders. There are certain things that come with experience, education experience, and then your zeal to achieve something. That's what has been lacking as far as I'm concerned, because if you look, most of the countries were liberated from colonialism in 1962. From 1960, it accelerated. That was the same time when Singapore started, isn't it? Look where Singapore is. Look at those African countries are today. Just that type of leadership and the vision. the leaders had vision. The leader of Singapore had a vision. I wish we could have more leaders like that. And then
ethical
lastly,
leaders ethical leaders that have got the good of the people at the heart.
That think purely of the nations they lead, not their stomachs.
Yeah, we're not going to dive down that rabbit warren. Where do you self-educate now, Sibusiso? Where do you stay ahead of the game? Do you read books? Do you do podcasts?
I read a lot. No, I read a lot.
What are you reading at the moment?
I am rereading a book by Roberto Quizzetto, who was then a CEO of Coca-Cola. I want the whole world to drink Coke. I'm reading that, and I'm reading as well The Toyota Way. Okay. And then the third book is one of my favorites that I read almost all the time, Making Elephants Dance by Lou Gessner, the story of turning around IBM.
Wow, Making Elephants Dance. Okay, that's brilliant.
Yes. Yeah. And then I read as well about technology. I really immerse myself in technology. There is so much imagined that has happened, especially in the IT space, as well as telco. So I stay abreast in those. I read, and it just keeps me going.
Brilliant. If you had to be talking to a graduate class of young South Africans that have just finished BCom IT, kind of getting into the workplace, what is your message to them, Sibusiso?
I would tell them that now we need to uneducate them. The attitude.
Listen, I'm paying for those little swines to go to varsity. Don't say that. Okay, carry on.
A lot of them come up with this attitude that now I've got a degree, I have arrived, I want money. I've got a degree, I want money. Put money on the table. And the output is very low. Yes. It's to appreciate, to say, hold on a minute, what you learned there was preparing you for tomorrow. You actually know very little. Let's build, let's help you grow. That would be what I really would learn with. There's a famous speaker who says, I was hungry. I would tell them, go and be hungry for knowledge and to learn and to apply what you learned. That hunger, that zeal that says, how do I go and make a difference to the world and to myself? Not to say that my paper of degree is now in my entitlement to the world. No.
So get a bit of humility and go and start sweating a little bit.
It's the only way. You have got to start. You've got to crawl before you run. You have to. There is a reason for that. There is a purpose. Experience cannot be taught at school. You've got to get in, boots in, and get your hands dirty. Yes. That appreciation has got to be driven.
And Sibusiso, what would the agenda topic be if you hosted a talk with business leaders in South Africa in IT? What would your agenda topic be?
Is this a targeted audience for adults or for young people before I say what I want to say?
No, adults. No, we're talking mid-management to senior management now. You hosting a conference at Think Tank at Lekgotla.
It is a pity that we can still be answering that question. I think it is a shame to humanity. All of us were brought up by our mothers. Just please tell me one thing in IT that a man can do better than a woman. Just one.
That would be your agenda topic.
Yeah, there's none.
Oh, my word.
Women are just as capable as us men in technical leadership. Give them an opportunity and then pay them the same. Pay them the same. Why should men be paid more still today? I just can't get that. I'm sorry. Not because I've got girls only, but it doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
Maybe the balls.
You would have a discussion around that.
Yes, I would say that the
Isn't
balls
it
don't make you an IT person, a better IT person.
Isn't it embarrassing that at 2022, we can still debate this as a topic?
It's disgusting. I'm sorry to say so. To me, it's just disgusting. I've got daughters. They are human beings just like me. I want them to be given the same opportunity as other people. This is where my view is on BAE and affirmative action is a problem. Do not give me a position or something to do because I'm black that you've got to reach these quotas. It must be based on my capability, my grit. What do I bring to the table? If I'm not reaching that experience, help me to get there. But this thing of Black empowerment as if you are an invalid is just wrong. Open up, give everybody an equal opportunity. Let me swim with the crocodiles, then I'm going to say I'm a good swimmer. But if you take me across on a helicopter and then you say I've crossed the river, that to me does not gel. You remember baby Jake Matlala?
Yeah.
Do you remember how big he was?
Tiny.
Exactly. How many people? How did he reach to be a world champ? He got into the ring and was beaten thoroughly. And he carried on to his goal to be a champ. Whether the face was swollen and he couldn't hardly see, he became a world champ. That's what I would like. Get me in the ring.
Wow. Sibusiso Mhlongo, there's wisdom that is coming through there. From the foothills of the Drakensberg through to the funny corridors of Europe, through to Southeast Asia, America, Africa, and then back to South Africa. Thank you for coming back and making your home here. Thank you to your daughter for bringing you home here and letting you carry on your career investing in South Africa.
She was crazy
for being a guest here and for that winning smile, that amazing smile that has graced us today. And yeah, I hope you go forth and have an amazing day.
Thank you so much. I wish you a pleasant one too.
We're going to see you again. See.
Thank you so much.
From me, Daniel, I hope you've enjoyed this discussion as much as I have. We didn't even dive into the IT side of it because Sibusiso was just dropping wisdom left, right, and center. So we'll have to get you back, Sibu. But for now, you better go and earn a crust and enjoy your day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
So much. Have a lovely day. Bye.